We meet in the space between parts. It is a space of inertia, where we suspend all limiting ideas of human potential in an authentic effort to move from darkness to light by discovering the true nature of reality.
Welcome back to the Absolute Reason Mentorship Program with a focus on gender ideology. Today we will be busy with our final part, Part 12, where we will further explore and discover a way of redirecting a negative force. This is part 12 and it will be the final part. But don't you worry about it. To come, I will be recording other 12-part programs in which we will further explore with a practical application relatable to the 21st century, the spiritual science that is hidden deep within you. I am Joan, your freaky philosopher, and you are my absolute reason. I'm sure by now you won't be too surprised if I set up part 12 with the wise words of Rudolf Steiner. Open quotes. True errors are not as harmful as half and quarter truths. Things completely mistaken soon become apparent, while half and quarter truths seduce people. These partial truths worm their way into life and have the most devastating effects. Close quotes. So in the spirit of Rudolf Steiner's wise words, let us take a moment to reorientate ourselves as to what we discovered in parts 1 to 11. This will be merely a nutshell overview so that we can quickly and soon enough begin to delve into part 12 in how to redirect a negative force. We began the journey of spiritual science with an understanding of the threefold nature. This is how the individual forms a relationship with his environment. It is this threefold aspect of the individual, the environment around the individual, and the relationship between these two parts that form a critical foundation from which you can further explore the true aspects of who you are as a spiritual being. We then went into a deeper delve as to what and who an individual is. And what we discovered was that the individual himself has a threefold nature. This threefold nature consists of will, knowledge, and action. If you observe the two, they become three. What that basically means is that you have an impulse that tickles your will to pursue something of interest. That pursuit brings about knowledge gained by the individual about this particular topic. Once the knowledge and the will begin to form a relationship, action becomes the third aspect. So once you observe the two, they become three. Once you observe both will and knowledge as coupled forces, they will bring about an action within the individual. This is then known as the knower of the field. But a basic understanding of the threefold nature of the individual isn't adequate to serve as a proper guide to us through the 21st century. So what we had to do was dive even deeper into ourselves. And what we discovered was the scale of man and the two extremes of the first counterparts created within this dual nature. And these two counterparts, as we know by now, are energy and matter. We dive deep into it, and I suggest that you just go back, whether you've listened to it or not. Go back and discover and explore and study the scale of man. This little picture, one flash photograph, will guide you for the rest of your life, and you'll be able to even assist those around you with this very basic understanding of how you can discover the true nature of reality. Inward and onward, deeper and deeper within. Inward and onward, more mystery seen. And it is in part 12 where we will finally touch. It's a brief introduction into the environment that surrounds the individual. In my little tile here, my little picture, you can see Nikola Tesla's face. And yes, he will be making an appearance, but it's merely an appearance because, to be honest and to be just to such a remarkable philosopher and man of mystery teachings, I will be doing a 12-part program on everything I've discovered about Nikola Tesla and how he formed a relationship with his environment by actually transmuting electricity from the environment. What a remarkable journey lays ahead. But before we can go into that deep mystery of Nikola Tesla, we first need to understand that which is closest to us, which means our own personal environment. And that is what we will be doing in part 12. It is also because we will be observing our environment that we will be returning to Abigail Schreier's lecture at Hillsdale College, where she identified 3 types of individuals who are mainly affected by gender ideology. In the first parts, I was helpful to the parents of children. In other words, it's either the 1 in 10,000 who have actual gender dysphoria and who really do have to or feel the need to go through the transition, and then those who are affected by the social contagion. So in the first parts, I observed those 2 relativities with that of the duty of the parent and the experience of the child are the relativities I used in which I was teaching the art of sacred physics. But now we will be exploring the environment, and it is in moving outwards. So now we're moving past ourselves, we're moving past our own immediate family, and now we are looking further into society to try and understand the third type of individual identified by Abigail Schreier, which is the activist. What is it that stirs the activist? Well, how is it that it gets so perverted that it becomes this rabid dog cornered and expressing in violent and almost demonic ways? What is that force, and how can we take that force, understand that force, and then inevitably redirect that negative force? It is in exploring redirecting that negative force that we will take the guidance of Nikola Tesla in showing us the physics behind it, the sacred physics. And then we will go one step further in showing everybody, each and every single individual affected by gender ideology. And we will go and show you how to adapt to the perpetual change that is life. Because ultimately, when you take a bird's eye view perspective of this demonic force behind gender ideology, it is all around the misunderstanding, the ignorance, and the desire for a deeper understanding around identity. If you understand yourself, the world around you will make sense. If you understand who you are as a fixed center point within the scale of man, you will begin to understand the push-pull relationship you have with the extreme potentials of who you are as an individual. In the words of Rudolf Steiner, it is not the senses that deceive, it is judgment. But then how can one make sure that your judgment is aligned with reality? And this is where the polar points of view create a critical picture for you as an individual to establish a critical way of thinking, a critical eye on what it is you observe. The greater the polarities of the points of view within your perspective, the greater your touch is with reality. Because it isn't the vast polarities of opinions that you are truly looking at. What you want to observe are the intersecting points of all of these polar points of view. It is the intersecting points of the knowledge gained that ultimately reveals real from unreal. Without a proper balance of knowledge from all polarities available to the scale of man, well, you tend to have a bit of a blind eye. You have a blind spot within your perspective if you, let's say, completely leave out the aspect of religion, the aspect of spirit within who you are as an individual. If you leave out that entire dual polarity aspect of who you are and you merely focus on the physical expression of who you are, well then your intersecting points will be lacking in knowledge, which means you have blind spots everywhere. And if you have a blind spot within your perspective and you have no solid knowledge to which you can compare new information gained, well, then you can easily be deceived to think, well, let's say, it's a good idea to cut off your tits at the age of 14. Nikola Tesla, open quote, "It is not the mind that makes the man, nor is it the body. It is the mind and the body. Our virtues and our failings are inseparable, like force and matter. When they separate, man is no more." Close quote. Nikola Tesla, open quote, "A negative force cannot be turned into a positive direction without passing through the intermediate phases. It is the problem of making a wheel rotating one way turn in the opposite direction without slowing it down, stopping it, and speeding it up again the other way." Close quote. So the effort to redirect a negative force is not an effort to define and to control a desired outcome of this redirection. What it is more an application of being able to adapt to the perpetual change that is life. This negative force is a force that is not conducive with the natural order of things, of the spiritual evolution of man. It is a truth that has been perverted into a negative force. That negative force can be redirected through the 10 steps specified by Nikola Tesla as a way of adapting to the perpetual change that is life. But it is important as you approach this topic to please remember to leave behind the need for a desired outcome. Force and control is not part of adapting to change. Force and control is more something that must be let go of so that the outcome reveals itself. It is that way that you can be assured you are aligned with the spiritual evolution of man. So let's go look at the 10 conditions to adapt to the perpetual change of life as specified by Nikola Tesla. I've summarized it into a 10-point checklist, if you will. There is a deeper lining detail given by Nikola Tesla, and I will hop on into it. But Nikola Tesla was not necessarily the type of teacher who provided detail as to what he was saying. That he kind of left up to me. But he has given us more than enough guidance for freaky philosophers such as myself to fill in the blanks. And those blanks are supported by the laws of Sanatana Dharma as well as by that of spiritual science aligned with teachers like Rudolf Steiner and Helena Blavatsky. The 10 conditions, as specified by our good friend Nikola Tesla, are as follow: duty, force, guidance, maintenance, memory, visualization, knowledge, creativity, purpose, and most importantly, play. Inward and onward we go to further explore what exactly Nikola Tesla meant when he pointed to the 10 conditions to adapt to change. But remember, Nikola wasn't the best teacher on the planet, so I will take his comments and I will delve a little bit deeper, reflecting on my own personal experience and also by adding the relativities of spiritual science through the teachings of Rudolf Steiner. It is once we understand how to adapt to change as ourselves, as an individual, that we can only then begin to look outside of ourselves. Then we can explore how to redirect the negative forces outside of our bodies by applying the same 10 conditions pointed to by Nikola Tesla. The first condition pointed to by Nikola Tesla in order for us to adapt to change is the condition of duty. He goes on to say, a high awareness of your mission and the work that must be done is critical in being able to adapt to change. The second condition Nikola Tesla points to is that of force. He says, all that I will, I finish. And this will is the very will of the individual. Nikola Tesla is pointing to that fixed aspect of the individual. It is the will of the individual that is directly linked to the duty perceived by the individual. The third condition is that of guidance. Nikola Tesla says, guidance for all the vital and spiritual energies in labor by purification of the many effects and needs of man. Like I said, Nikola wasn't necessarily the best of teachers, so that sounds quite complicated. But at the end of the day, what he is pointing to is that he found guidance through labor, through physical action. And from a personal perspective, I can tell you the best kind of labor that reveals guidance to you as an individual is the labor of service to others. You may have noted that when it came to stabilizing relativities within the scale of man, I had service in the pocket, in the scale of matter. It is a very physical activity that an individual performs in service to somebody else with no demand for praise or any type of remuneration. The fourth condition required is that of maintenance. And as an individual who spent all of her adult life basically in manufacturing plants, I can tell you maintenance is critical. And this is what Nikola points to. Nikola Tesla says, adjust physical assembly with work. Man's body is a magnificent machine. And that machine aspect of who you are as an individual, I will further explore in another 12-part program that I will present as the vessel of man. But for now, what is critical to understand is that maintenance is required when it comes to adjusting your physical assembly to fit your purpose. My 8-month-old pit bull puppy decided to give his 2 cents in the background there. His name is, by the way, Ketu, and you will get to meet Ketu with another 12-part program of mine titled Human Training for Dogs. But that was as a bit of a side note because Ketu insisted on barking in the background and I'm not going to re-record that segment. So on we move to the next aspect or the next condition Nikola Tesla points to, and that is memory. Interestingly enough, though, Nikola Tesla doesn't seem to be referring to memory in the same way you and I would. I relate to memory as the copy and paste games they made me play in school in order for me to pass from one grade into the other. But listen to how Nikola speaks of memory. He says, my brain is engaged in more important things than memory. It picks what is required at any given moment out of ether. Memory is only there to be consumed and is all around us in the form of light particles. These particles are obedient and faithful to the will of the individual. And of course now Ketu has discovered his squeaky toy, which I have named Helena Blavatsky. So obviously I had to leave that part in there also, just because, well, Helena Blavatsky was such a rock star, and Ketu just wanted to say hi with his little squeak. But let us return to Nikola Tesla and his description of memory. The memory Nikola Tesla is pointing to here is actually memory captured within the ether. This is knowledge that is pocketed within the ether space around the individual, the etheric body. He doesn't relate to memory as a copy and paste game, but he relates to memory as something that can be harvested from your surrounding environment. Now, that is a very deep and complex way of relating to memory. When we, just through the mentorship program, relate to memory, I think it wiser for us to relate to memory as that of seeking guidance from our family members, from the more senior individuals within your family, from the holy men within our religious systems, and yes, even from those very highly educated white coats who actually even may deny your spiritual aspect. But the point is, you need to gain information, knowledge from the memory and lives of others. Sit down, have conversations, ask good questions, and you will learn so much from those around you and from their memories that you will save yourself a hell of a lot of trouble in the future of your life. On we go to the next condition pointed to by Nikola Tesla, and that is the power of visualization. Nikola says, I might have to thank visualization for all I have invented. Nurture it and guard it. Now, few of you may have heard the stories. Nikola Tesla used to be known for having long naps in the park. I'm sure this happened before or after he spent some time with his favorite pigeon. But it was during these naps in the park that I would dare to say Nikola wasn't just sleeping, but rather visualizing whatever component he was imagining to build. It is through the power of visualization that you can work out the kinks in your design. And that eventually will save you a hell of a lot of trouble and mistakes. personally, I can relate to this. I use visualization as a placement of intent before I begin to teach a specific segment. This visualized intent of mine is what you see on the slides I show while I'm doing the teaching of whatever segment. And as you may have heard or concluded, I have no script that I read from. I'm a complete cowboy in my approach of teaching, but it is because I use the power of visualization for my preparation. So by the time I stand here and record, all I'm really doing is describing the pretty little pictures in my head and the beautiful emotions in my heart. This process is visualization and it helps to save a lot of time. Nikola Tesla is pointing to this as a critical condition for you as an individual to be able to adapt. The next condition pointed to by Nikola is that of knowledge. But yet again, it is not knowledge as you and I would on a regular basis relate to it, something we read in a book referring to somebody else's experience. Oh no, Nikola Tesla sees knowledge as the occult knowledge. This is that hidden knowledge. It's not a secret, but it is hidden. Why is it hidden? Well, because you as an individual need to at least show some sort of will and effort in order to reach this higher state of being. Otherwise, well, you can just be who you are and be spoon-fed whatever nonsense the guy next to you wants to feed you, or should I even dare to say mainstream media. But Nikola Tesla refers to knowledge as the knowledge of how the mental and vital energy transform into what we want to achieve. This vital and mental energy combination and reaction through coupled forces is exactly what we call metaphysics or spiritual science or the mystery occult. It is all the same thing. It is knowledge of how the mental and vital energy, these are the subtle things within you as an individual, how that moves formless into form. So, as a condition for you to be able to adapt to change, Nikola Tesla is saying you must understand sacred physics, or at least the basics of it. I, Joan, your freaky philosopher, have made it far easier for you to find and discover this hidden knowledge for yourself. So we have 3 more conditions to explore. The next one is creativity. And Nikola Tesla points to the feminine aspect as being the spiritual power of the individual. That spiritual power is the feminine aspect. The actual action of the individual is the masculine aspect of who you are. This is why we get compassionate action. It's what we feel, and then it is how we act. The masculine and the feminine polarities couple, and it is within this coupling of the two forces that you express as an individual. What lands in your underwear is merely the last point of your physical expression. There's so much more about who you are that when you begin to move inward and onward, further and deeper within, what is held within your underwear really becomes less relevant because you are so fascinated with all that you are. The second last condition pointed to is the condition of understanding your purpose. This is what keeps your focus on your will. And Nikola Tesla points to that we must not forget who we are and why we are here on earth. Now, I know many of you may be saying, now what the hell? What does it mean? Why are we here on earth? Well, it's quite simple when you start studying spiritual science and the ancient texts. In a nutshell, it is the purpose of humanity to remember that we are not this body, but that we are in essence spiritual beings experiencing this physical embodiment. That is who we are. We are spiritual beings. We are not what is in our underwear. Why we are here on earth for this physical embodiment is so that we can learn not to be deceived by our senses or by our judgment of what our senses are perceiving. And so we are now at the final condition specified by Nikola Tesla, and that is the condition of play. In fact, Nikola Tesla found the act of playfulness so important to who he was as an individual that he said that he hopes that once he has gone, that we will write that Mr. Tesla played all his life and that he enjoyed it. It is playfulness that teaches us about ourselves and our environment. It is playfulness that nurtures a beautiful, supportive relationship that we form with our environment and those within it. And so it is also play that ultimately teaches us about consciousness, about sacred physics and spiritual science. There is a reason why people say, oh, your inner child is important. It is far more important than you may think, and there is lots to be discovered under the condition of play. That concludes the 10 conditions to adapt to the perpetual change that is life. As per Nikola Tesla, it was duty, force, guidance, maintenance, memory, visualization, knowledge, creativity, purpose, and most importantly, it was playfulness. So in part 12.1, we will be using these 12 conditions to assist and guide us in redirecting the negative force observed and experienced within our environment, specifically when it comes to the activists within the gender ideology group. I am Joan, your freaky philosopher, and you are my absolute reason.